Good day and welcome to Focus On. I'm Dewald. The World Economic Forum ended on the 26th of May with delegates, top leaders, big corporates and investors tackling challenges faced globally. I'm joined by Garth Napier, Managing Director at Old Mutual Insure, to bring us some highlights and key messages stem from the World Economic Annual Meetings. Good day, Garth. Good to have you back.
Good day, Dewald, and good day to your viewers.
I want to know, Garth, Old Mutual went to Davos with a purpose. What were some of the lessons learned?
I think, Dewald, we had three things we wanted to try and achieve at the World Economic Forum this year. I think we wanted to firstly be engaged in conversations around climate change. We wanted to be engaged in conversations around regional collaboration and cooperation. And we wanted to be engaged in conversations really around equity and how we can ensure kind of better equity in terms of how economies are growing across the world, and in Africa in particular. I think overall, very, very happy with the outcomes. I think we were involved in some very good dialogues around those three items, and definitely taken some key lessons and opportunities for us in terms of things we need to drive in our business, stakeholders we need to engage with. So very happy with the outcome of the World Economic Forum.
Now, you're talking about some of the conversations that you were involved with. Were some of them about innovative green technologies and strategies that you can factor in for the risk for climate change?
Yeah, so I think the climate change conversation was quite a broad one because it focused on a couple of things. I think the first one was really just reiterating the need for urgent action. And I think that's a very important conversation to remind leaders that, to achieve the goal of only warming the climate by 1.5 degrees by 2050, we need to take action now. So I think that is a very first and important part of the conversation. I think the second part of the conversation was really around what are the options or opportunities around to try and reduce carbon emissions, whether it's technology, whether it's strategies at a country level, at a community level. Now a good example is we had a conversation around how does kind of clean drinking water actually link back to climate change? And when you think about it, you're probably not very clear, but one of the reasons is, a lot of communities don't have access to clean drinking water. As a result, they cut down trees to burn the firewood, to boil the water, to have clean drinking water. So if you can find a solution to clean drinking water, you could actually reduce deforestation and you could create a carbon sink. So I think, it's more wider than just technology. I think the third part of the conversation was around the transition. So how do you make sure you have a just transition? You can't expect all countries across the world to move at the same pace. Firstly, the starting point's different in terms of current carbon emissions. The starting point's different in terms of how much technology each country has, how much funding each country has. So I think the just transition was a very important one. And then I guess the last one is from all of that is how do you set relevant goals at a country and possibly even a community level. So technology was a key part. So obviously, we have seen quite a big advancement in technology like wind technology, like solar, and even some of the more fringe technologies like harnessing waves for energy generation. So there's been lots of technology advancements. Another key conversation is around intellectual property. So would the owners of this technology be willing to share that more widely? And by sharing it more widely, almost like open source coding in information technology, you may actually get better solutions, bring down the cost of that technology significantly. So I think that's an important part of the conversation.
Now, Garth, you're mentioning a lot of action-orientated strategies and alliances. How important is partnership to make this a reality?
Yeah, I think it's fundamental. I think without partnership, we don't achieve this. Without the different leaders across the world working together, different corporates working together, I think we're not going to have the advancements in technology we require. We're not going to have the funding we need to help developing countries like ourselves and most of the African continents to make the right investments in a just transition. So I think without collaboration, this definitely doesn't happen. So that was a really key part of the engagements.
Now, I want to jump a little bit to a different topic. One of the main topics other than technology that came out was the Metaverse and how we should find opportunities to leapfrog in this area. What is the, to put it differently, how realistic is it for us, and what is the risk factor for the insurance sector to implement or to be part of this technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think I must say the best explanation I got around the metaverse is, taking the internet on your computer, which is 2D, and converting it to a 3D world is probably the best way to kind of explain what the metaverse is. And there's two parts of the metaverse: there's a virtual reality component and an augmented reality component. The virtual reality is, for lack of a better word, a game. It's how do you create a game that allows people to interact real time with each other in a virtual world? I think the one that's very interesting from a insurance and opportunity point of view is augmented reality. So at the moment, if you and I are walking down the street and we're trying to find, petrol price goes up tomorrow, so you're trying to find the nearest garage, you need to go onto your phone and type in garage. Imagine a world where you've got glasses on and you say, Siri, find me the nearest garage, and your glasses can kind of show you how to navigate to get there. And when you get to the garage, it'll tell you which pump is available, and you can virtually tap your card and pay for the fuel after the attendant has put it in. So that's, I think the augmented reality is where you're taking the real world and overlaying these data sources onto it, which makes it easier for someone to do or multitask in the real world. Again, it could be extremely useful for things like, let's take an example of driving your car and getting the best possible route to the office. You don't have to pick up your phone. You can just say, Siri, fastest route to the office, and you can see it in 3D as you're driving your car. And along the way, if you need to find a bakery, or if you need to pick up something from the closest engine garage, Siri can help you find it. So I think that's the opportunity. How far away is it? I think it's still far away. I think there's still lots of conversations to be had around standards and how do you standardize it, and how do you make sure it doesn't become intrusive? How do you avoid abuse in the metaverse, just as you need to make sure you avoid it on social media platforms now? So there's still those types of things that need to happen. Obviously, the technology still needs to catch up. We don't have, 3D glasses at the moment that can do this augmented reality we are looking at. The virtual reality stuff does exist, but again, you still need significant improvements in the quality and capability of the technology there. So it's still a while off. Does it enable us as a developing country to leapfrog? It could, if we make the investments in the skills needed to code and develop these worlds, and provide the right back-end infrastructure to create these augmented and virtual reality worlds. I think our starting point, though, is we're not currently focusing on that, or we haven't focused enough on it as a country or continent. So it would require significant investment in the right technology, coding skills, and I think that's a journey we need to engage with government on to see if there's appetite.
One of the other key topics that came out was the geopolitical tension and how it's influencing economic growth. How is it affecting the insurance sector at the moment?
Yeah, so I think obviously the Ukraine war is top of mind for everyone. It's having massive ripple effects currently. The main ripple effect we're seeing from a South African point of view is the impact it's having on the costs of commodities and the knock-on effect thereof, right? So Russia is obviously a big supplier of oil. Therefore, oil is at, I think, $120 a barrel yesterday. Secondly, Russia and Ukraine are big exporters of agricultural goods. We're all aware what's happening with sunflower oil. So obviously it's driving up inflation. And with inflation increasing, We're seeing reserve banks responding with increasing interest rates, and that's having a knock-on effect and putting pressure on consumers who now have higher mortgage payments, plus higher petrol prices going up tomorrow, and massive increases in food prices. From an insurance point of view, we've also seen massive increases in the cost of, everything from car parts to geysers to the cost of steel. So every time we need to assist clients repairing their motor vehicles or damage to their properties, like in KZN, we've seen upwards of 20% increases in the costs of those goods, really driven by combination of geopolitical tensions in Europe, as well as supply chain constraints driven by lockdowns in China, and we haven't quite fully recovered from the impact that COVID had on the global supply chains.
Mm. As a parting thought, what's some of the tips that you can recommend that we can implement that will ease the pressure on the consumer?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult one, Dewald. I think it's external forces driving up prices. It's not like you've got local South African firms that are dictating these prices. A lot of the goods are imported, so it's a very difficult one from that point of view. I guess we're hoping that the interest rate means that the rand strengthens slightly. I guess as businesses, we've been very cautious and careful around what price increases we pass on to our consumers. We fully aware of the pressure they're under, and as far as possible, where we can absorb those price increases, we're doing so. So I think that's something we can all look at and really think long and hard around. Could we hold off on these price increases? Hopefully, some of these supply chain disruptions are temporary and not necessarily, permanent shifts in the cost of goods. And if that's the case, then holding off on price increases could be something we could think of. But as I said, I think the biggest challenge we have is that these are external factors that are impacting us on the tip of Africa.
Garth, as always, thank you so much for your valuable time and input in summarizing what happened at World Economic Forum.
Thanks for having me, Dewald.
I want to thank my guest, Garth Napier, Managing Director of Old Mutual Insure. And until next time, goodbye.